What's one thing in life that is constant, mostly hated, but we can't escape, no matter how hard we try? If by some chance you answered change, I'd need to French you because you'd be right. Or on a more mild note, give you a golden star. Hello, this is Mars Wilson. Welcome to another episode of the Digital Quill Podcast. We are in season 2, and this is going to be episode 7. Lucky number 7. Cue audience applause. Yay. I'd like to apologize before we get into today's content to anyone who was expecting an episode last week. Some things have come to my attention that I needed to address, and I needed to take a small hiatus. But we are back, ready for action, and we are talking about the state of flux. Change. Change isn't exactly my favorite subject, but it is something that we have somehow managed to talk a lot about. I was going through my I was using the search bar on my main profile for Substack here, and I was like, wow, change has come up at least 2 times. That's a lot, especially since I've grown comfortable with change. I like it when things change because I dislike being in my comfort zone. But some things give me the ick. Some things changing, I'm just like, that shouldn't have changed, but I get it. Things are in a constant state of flux, and fighting the flow will lead to sorrow, for one must move like waves, flow like air, be wild like fire, and quaking like earth. If you don't follow the flow, if you fight it, you will certainly lead to sorrow. In a way, it's almost like the art of acceptance. Accepting what is and letting go of what isn't. If you don't like something, what's there to do about it? You can change it, but if you can't change it, what do? You can change your mindset about it. That's actually a practice I've had to develop for myself. Changing my mind about something that I can't change. And that's not to say that we are upset about that. It's not to say that we aren't upset about that. There's still emotions there. However, the mindset change when you don't have the ability to change the things that you wish to change can save you a lot of pain. A lot of additional, unnecessary pain. Sometimes philosophies and mindsets and perspectives like Occam's razor. The simplest solution's the best. And I suppose on that note, I should probably give some context as to why I thought about that. But before I do, in the comments below, just because, what is one thing that you've seen change in the last 3 months that you don't like and that you do like? One thing that you don't like that's changed, and one thing that you do like that's changed. For me, before diving into context, I would say I don't like the weather change in the last 3 months. It's certainly gotten hotter in the last 3 months. Yay. Desert activities. The people around me have changed in the last 3 months too. I would say that's the thing that I like the most. Your turn. Your turn. So, on the note of changing your mindset, kind of an idea, and this is only one example of like, this is an exaggeration, but also kind of not. This is just one example of millions, hundreds of thousands of millions. Some people in the world want things to look a certain way or be a certain way. And after a lot of trying and failing, sometimes those ways that we want them to look don't end up happening. Take chosen family, for example. You can want all of it in the world. You can want to have your blood relatives, your family that you grew up with and knew as a part of your dinner table on Sunday evenings, like to prepare for the rest of the week. Or you can understand that that's not going to happen and was never going to happen, and find the people who will sit with you at your table. That's not to say that, there's a lot of change there. There's changing faces, there's changing places, there's changing glances, because you're not going to be glancing at the same thing anymore. There was one philosopher, I believe, I can't remember the name at the moment, who said that you're never going to step in the same river twice because it's not the same river and you're not the same person. And I'm just like, dang, that kind of hits a little bit. Ouch. You're right, because the river is constantly carrying water and other micronyms of, I'm not saying this word right, but I am tired. As I said earlier, it is hot here, and I drove for the first time in a while today. Kudos to myself. And that was challenging and not challenging. It was fairly easy, but like the heat, guys, I'm melting out here. Someone send me to the snow caps. Thank you. But so getting back to like that trying and failing and like having to change your mindset over something. So sometimes my Sunday dinners aren't with the people I thought they'd be, but it's still family and it's still dinner and it's still, and arguably it's better. Actually, I feel like there's no argument there. For some of us with chosen family, there's no argument there. The thing that I also don't like, I do like, okay, so this is something I have mixed feelings on, and maybe someone out there kind of feels the same way, especially if you've lived in the same area or have frequented the same area in like, over a long span of time, say like 2 decades, maybe a decade. Let's just for fun go with 2 decades. If you've lived in the same area for 2 decades, or too long, as I'd like to say, you will notice a lot of change. I've seen dirt lots that have been vacant for 15 years get turned into apartment complexes, and very, very small homes that are priced at way too high prices and, in my opinion, way too close together, because I don't know if I feel comfortable being able to touch my neighbor's wall. I would like some distance, a little bit of distance, so that I can, perform birthday suit activities in the privacy of my own home without potential peeping people. That was so well said. Wonderful. Just absolutely wonderful. Moving on. I've seen restaurants that have been, there forever, disappear overnight. I've seen restaurants go in and out in a matter of months. So let me backtrack. On one street, there's like a lot of different like strip malls where there's like just one long building and a bunch of little tiny storefronts and like food places and stuff, like barber shops and smoke shops and food and like Subways and just all of that stuff. And in one suite, one unit, I have seen, like, I kid you not, a dozen, if not more, restaurants and or food based establishments appear there. And I'm sitting here like, is the place cursed? Like, is there just a hex on the land where like restaurants will all ye restaurants who put up business here shall perish? Like, is that what's going on? Like, what happened? Is there like an angry spirit that just hates all food related things? Like, do we need to bless the land? Like, what's going on? I've seen buildings that I thought were gorgeous get torn down. I've seen buildings that were historical landmarks actually get torn down because the people trying to fight with the city and like the Historical Landmark Society, like, you'd be actually surprised how often that happens in some ways, and also in some ways where it doesn't. It's like a mixed bag, and I actually kind of want to talk more about that and find people who are talking about that, because like old historical buildings are actually kind of cool in a way, and I feel like we should spend the time to like appreciate them rather than tear them down. But I don't know what that makes me, because like some areas you kind of have like a little bit of history, and I kind of like learning about history and trying to figure out what not to do ever again. That's the whole point of history. I should probably take a breath, which means at this point in this episode, you should also take a breath, because that's one of the things that we do here. We remember to breathe as much as we remember to keep going. Going is hard, but breathing is easier, sort of. Okay, maybe not. Maybe breathing isn't that easy. For some reason in my notes, my half dyslexic brain was like dystopian, and I'm like, that is nowhere near what was in those texts that I was reading. I don't know why I do that sometimes, I'll be honest. Why my brain will just pick out words that have nothing to do with what's inside the text of what I'm reading, and like will completely like rewrite the word, and I'm like, wait, that made no sense, but what is that about? I think I might actually have words for that, but this isn't what that's about. We're talking about change. That's quite the change of topic. I'm funny. A little bit. So, change. Oh, and breathing. Breathing exchange. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth after the count of 3. So, breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3. And let that one go slowly. If you're driving an automobile, I ask kindly that you keep your eyes on the road and also not on your cell phone. Thank you. You are driving a machine that is potentially incredibly lethal. We are not distracted drivers. We are conscious drivers. If you are at work, please share this with your friends, because I'm sure they might want to throw their 2 cents in about change. I did that again. Nice. Probably would have been better if I didn't point that out. However, I said what I said, and I stand by it. It is a hill I will die on. It's not a hill I'll change, but unfortunately, geography, or I guess geography? No, there's a better term for that. But yeah, a form of geography will tell me that that land and that hill will change anyway. Tectonic plates, shifting of continental shift. Hold on, I can see it. It's in picture format inside my brain, just not word format, and I hate when my brain does that, because it's like sometimes I have words in my brain where I'm like, oh hey, that makes sense. Sometimes I have pictures, and sometimes it's like a watercolor portrait and I'm just sitting there looking at the watercolor portrait like, what am I looking at? What is that? What is that? What is that blob of yellow? Oh, that must be a form of what people see who are glasses wearers or need prescription glasses. I'm really trying to understand the perspective of those, and the only way that I can is by wearing your glasses if you like wear glasses. And every time I do, I feel bad because I'm like, oh, this is what you see. I mean, or don't. Eyeballs are weird. And eyeballs can change too. Speaking of change, eyeballs can change color. And also, there's so many different like weird little like common to incredibly rare eye problems where you can like go blind suddenly. I know with my like traumatic brain injury stuff, my head, like I'll get these dizzy spells and it's actually pretty much the exact equivalent of fainting. Luckily, I'm able to kind of tell when it's about to happen and I can like stop myself from collapsing. But the first thing that goes is like usually my hearing and then my vision. I actually have gone blind before temporarily. I had woken up and I'd let myself lay there a little bit, but I had gone out of bed to go to the restroom, and this was like fucking 10 years ago. But probably 15 now. I am getting up there. But yeah, and I have been dealing with these for at least 20 years. So, speaking of 20 years and change, TBI pains, like traumatic brain injuries or like brain, chronic condition problems. The blind story before we jump into that, I'd woken up, and before I had actually fully like gotten to the exit of my room, like I must have been in the doorway, my vision like went away entirely. Like there was nothing, like complete total darkness, like suddenly, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I can't see. So I like yelled for my mother at the time, and like it was terrifying for the both of us. That was around the time that we started to take my migraine stuff more seriously, and the doctors didn't. Fun stories on that one. The doctors did not take any of that seriously. I had maybe one brain scan, maybe, not including, or is including, no, that wasn't including the one from when I had them back in the day. But yeah, I'm just sitting here like, why did you hand me seizure medication? This isn't helping. The headaches are still happening. The weird symptoms are also still happening. Speaking on that note of change and head injury stuff, I have seen changes in just like that. And honestly, with diet, exercise, actually figuring out what it was and not treating it for what we thought it was kind of helped. Believe it or not, for a long time I thought it could have been potential tumor. For a long time I thought it could like either benign or cancerous. For a long time I thought it could have been another form of like thyroid issues or other stuff. There's also potential just like family history of migraines, and migraines are already pretty crazy and varied as far as like a head condition goes. And at some point I had landed on a forum for people with brain injuries, chronic long-term TBIs, and I was like, oh, some of these stories sound weirdly familiar to mine. And that's when it clicked with me. I was like, I've been trying to treat my symptoms, and I've been trying to figure out like what in my environment and what in my body is causing these, but I haven't looked too closely at my entire history with my head. And when I started looking at the close history of my head, starting with like my head injuries, say from when I was like 2 or 3 years old and I split my skull open and was losing a lot of blood and needed like 5 stitches. I think it was staples, not stitches. I don't remember. I think it was staples, like 5 of them. And let me just say that they didn't exactly tell, my family to look for concussion. They kind of just sent me home. And yeah, I have a scar on my forehead that might be my biggest clue as to why my head is the problem it is. But on that also note, just to continue to marsplain this, that's right. I said marsplain. It's like a TED Talk or a mansplain. Yeah, but I'm splaining things and you're gonna listen. On top of the cracked skull and the blood loss, that was also around the time period, if not a couple years shy or before, of when my adolescent body was essentially more or less used like a rag doll by a very, very, very large person compared to adolescent toddler body. And if you know, you know. If not, then there's plenty of other episodes for you to listen to. Carry along. With that being said, I have reason to believe that based on the size, the potential movements, and just the fact that I was unconscious, there was probably a degree of whiplash. So it's like, dang, continuous whiplash, brain injury with or a head injury after concussion, potential concussion. No, that sounds like a recipe for a traumatic brain injury that's long term. So I started to kind of treat it a little bit more like a brain injury and dealing with my inflammation and trying to figure out where to keep my inflammation from being too high, which is one of the reasons why I need to get the heck out of Arizona, because high heat temperatures don't help me at all. It actually makes things incredibly worse. But yeah, I have to keep myself in the same temperatured environment. Going outside and messing with my body temperature too much can trigger the worst of the worst headaches. I might actually need to use an ice pack because it's yeah. But anyway, change is constant. It's not something that I was always a fond of. As a matter of fact, even right now, I'm still not entirely a fond of, because while I don't want to put that energy out there, I am a realist to an extent, and I understand brain injuries can change. Either get worse or get better. I'm hoping for the get better. I'm doing a lot of the stuff that I can to help the hope that it gets better. Can't do much about the restaurant thing, but I will continue to try them once in a while. See what's new, see what's up, see if it's worth sticking around for, and hoping it stays in business. So, yeah. Yep. Oh, another example of change that I actually kind of want to talk about, because that one just kind of made me think of some. King of the Hill on Hulu. We got new episodes, new seasons of years later, where everyone's adults. Freaking Bobby's early 20s. That's kind of cool. I remember all of the show. I feel like the new voice actors, I think there's 1 or 2 who voice some of the characters that we know, and maybe there's new ones. Did they try to get the whole cast? I don't actually remember. I'm talking out of my ass on this one. My bad. Wait. Hold on. 1 fucking second. I have Google right in front of me. Let me just go here. Let me go to King of the Hill cast compare. Point is, changes are everywhere. I have no idea how long that was paused or why it was paused. Nice. Cool. I might have to investigate that later. Was that my fault? Did I do that? Is there a way to... Oh. You know what? Hotkeys are a pain in the ass. Yeah, hotkeys are a pain in the ass. And that right there is exactly what the show is about, more or less. Humans being humans, doing human things. Like messing up half of a recording. Probably like 5 minutes. 5 minutes of a recording. Well done. Maybe 2. Maybe it wasn't that much. Maybe I'm overthinking that. Either way, I have not much else to say. And I'd rather go away. God damn it. And before I rhyme anymore on accident, because that was not on purpose. God, I hate it when I do that. That's great. Also, I'm mildly annoyed that happened. Also, it's really cloudy out now, and I kind of want to enjoy the weather from the window instead of watching my window of recording. And also, I have other things I want to do today, so goodbye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being human, or something close to. And thank you for existing. I will see you on other days and other ways, playing other plays. that was intentional. Remember to breathe, and as always, see you next time. Keep going.